Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. As we had discussed in the last class, we will discuss today on charge of GST. Okay, we had completed definition of supply. Now we'll move to charge of GST. Before we start, yes, there are some questions. So if you have any questions, please post it. Sir, please explain parameters of supply and no claim bonus from chapter 2. Okay. We had discussed Sneha in the last session. Just recapitulate that and please listen to the recording because points which are already covered, what is your specific doubt in it, right? What we will do in these classes is not repeat what we have already said because those are available and you should pay attention in the class. If you are not attentive in the class, you can always watch the video on the YouTube, which is available. The recorded classes are available. So please ask me what is your specific doubt. Mosham Kumari, your doubt is on mixed supply. What specifically in mixed supply? Don't you didn't understand mixed supply? What is it? Good afternoon, Ritika. Good afternoon, Chitra Devi. Mixed supply. Okay, so basically, what is composite supply and what is mixed supply? Mixed supply is a supply which is multiple individual supplies which is bundled together. Okay, when two or more supplies are bundled together, which is a artificial bundling. Okay, if it is a natural bundling that you cannot sell it separately without these two products combined together, then it is a composite supply. But when these two products are mixed together artificially, then it is a mixed supply. Okay, the impact of mixed supply is when you have a mixed supply, then the GST rate will not be based on the highest value, it will be on the highest rate. Okay, if three components are there, the individual value of one may be just 10 rupees, the overall package may be 1000 rupees. But if that 10 rupees worth of product has having a highest GST rate, then that highest GST rate will apply on the whole package. That is mix supply. Yes, Tej Chauhan, what are you not able to understand on the no claim bonus? So you have to understand. Let me share the study material so that it is clear for everyone. Tej, what is the reference page number for no claim bonus? Hmm. No supply of service 2.21. Exactly. So just understand this. How does no claim bonus work? The issue which arose for consideration was whether the deduction on account of no claim bonus, which is allowed by the insurance company from the insurance premium payable by the insured, can be considered as a consideration for the supply provided by the insured to the insurance company for agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act. Okay. So let us understand. Okay, let's read this and then I'll explain it to you. As per the practice prevailing in the insurance sector, the insurance companies deduct no claim bonus from the gross insurance premium amount when no claim is made by the insured person during the previous insurance periods. The customer insured procures insurance policy to indemnify himself from any loss or injury as per the terms of the policy and is not under a contractual obligation. It is therefore clarified that there is no supply provided by the insured to the insurance company in the form of agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act of lodging insurance claim during the previous year, and NCB, no claim bonus, cannot be considered as a consideration for any supply provided by the insured to the insurance company. Now, what happens? You have a policy, you have a vehicle, you on this vehicle, specifically questions were asked by these students, so please pay attention. Tej, Chauhan, and Sneha, where you were asking on no claim bonus. So when I go to the insurance company, I will take my vehicle, they will assess it and tell 2000 rupees is the insurance you have to pay. You have to pay for the insurance, because if any damages happens to the vehicle, they will give the full claim. For that, you have to pay premium. This premium is 2000 rupees. Every year, is it fixed? It may be fixed or it may get changed. But every year you have to pay. So you go for the first year, pay 2000 rupees and come off. Now, this year, when you had a 1 year gap, you had some accident, you went to the insurance company, lodged a claim, and they gave you this full value of the damage. Say 10,000 rupees was the damage they gave you. Fine. Next year you went, you renewed it. That time also premium was 2,100 rupees got extended, got increased. So you paid the premium of 2,100 rupees. That year, second year, you did not claim anything because you didn't incur any accident. So what happened? They gave you the benefit saying that, okay, boss, second year, you have not claimed any claim from us. So third year, when you will come for renewal, okay, when you go for third year renewal, they will tell, we will not, since you have not claimed anything, we are giving you a discount. This discount is called as no claim bonus. Okay, this no claim bonus is like a discount saying that, okay, since you have not claimed anything in the second year, you have not lodged any claim for your vehicle, you have not met any accident. Even if you would have met accident, but to us you have not come, so we will give you a bonus. So they are giving you this no claim bonus. Since this no claim bonus has been given, the all the insurance companies follow this. So tax authorities saw that, was in every policy we are seeing that most of the policies you are giving this no claim bonus deduction. So then they said that, see, insurance companies, you are reducing this, which means that the vehicle owners are providing you something. That's why you are indirectly reducing from your value what you have to collect. So you have to pay GST on this. Okay. So then the insurance company said, no, this is not a kind of a supply which is happening. It is just in our trade practice, it is followed that if a client comes and he does not claim anything, we give him a no claim bonus. So there is no supply element in this. So that is what the circular is clarifying, that if there is no supply, then there is no GST. That is what the circular is clarifying. They have specifically said in the circular that there is no supply provided by the insured to the insurance company in the form of agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act of lodging. Okay, he is not obliged that he should not claim it. He has taken the insurance policy, वो तो claim करेगा ही अगर accident हो गया, लेकिन उस साल he is driven it very nicely or he is not claimed anything. He is not lodged any insurance claim. So for that, he's getting a no claim bonus. Not that it is compulsory that he should not. If he lodges it, he'll not get no claim bonus. That is a very meager value. So इसलिए that no claim bonus is not a consideration for any supply provided by the insured to the insurance company. Got it? Yeah, all companies give this, Dhanush. When you register your vehicle and go to the next year, you see in the policy document, you generally don't see the documents. So law is very simple because law is taking all the examples from our practical things. When you go to a restaurant, see the bill. When you go to buy a car, renew your insurance, go check these. You will see that this is definitely possible that whatever practical things are happening is only taxed. Okay, so we are getting this no claim bonus also. No claim bonus will be deducted from premium. Yes, it will be deducted from the premium. That's where the issue arises. सब मिक्स सप्लाई में कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे कि वो मिक्स सप्लाई है या, क्योंकि आपने लास्ट लेक्चर में एक क्वेश्चन किया था, उसमें कार सर्विस और रिपेयर का इंडिविजुअल जीएसटी रेट लगाया था। करेक्ट। उसमें इंडिविजुअल अलग से लगाया था क्योंकि वो अलग से सप्लाई करते हैं। लेकिन अगर दोनों को बंडल करेंगे सौम्या, तो फिर उसे मिक्स सप्लाई करेंगे। इसमें तो बिल एक है। ओके, बिल एक है, लेकिन लेकिन फिर भी वो मिक्स सप्लाई नहीं रहेगा क्योंकि बिल एक करने से नहीं होगा। बिल की क्राइटेरिया नहीं है। क्या क्राइटेरिया है? क्राइटेरिया ये है कि दोनों को मैं साथ में ही बेच सकता हूं या अलग भी बेच सकता हूं। दैट इज द क्राइटेरिया। Okay. So now let's get into the charge of GST. We had started this topic last week itself. Let us continue. We know charging power. The power to charge, which is also called as levy under any law, flows from the Supreme Constitution. So GST is also coming from the Constitution itself by Article 246A. And there are various events which were there prior to GST, like manufacture was the point of levy for supply. For manufacturing was the levy for excise duty. Similarly, the supply is the trigger point for uh, taxable event in GST. Okay. Then we have CGST, SGST, and IGST, three types of taxes on intrastate transaction. CGST and SGST is charged, and on interstate transaction, IGST is charged. When is it treated as an interstate supply or a local supply? When the location of supplier and place of supply are in the same state, then it is an intrastate supply. When the location of supplier and place of supply are in two different states, then it is a interstate supply. Then to what extent is India covered? Because the Central GST Act extends to the whole of India. IGST Act extends to the whole of India. Now, what is India? India is defined as the territory of India, then the territorial waters. Whatever transaction happens in those territorial waters, that way you see you have something called as Bombay High, which is not in Bombay, it is far from Bombay, but still any transaction happening there is liable because you can say, sir, it is not in the shores, right? It is not within the border of India. But India has defined that even those 12 nautical miles and that measurement, up to that also anything happens, it is India itself. That's why any oil exploration which happens in Bombay High is liable because it is within the definition of territory of India. And even the airspace above the territory and territorial waters. So any territorial waters is also included there. Okay, so this is the meaning definition. Somebody had a doubt on this. Is that clear now? So high C is covered in India. No, high C is not covered. So as you can see from this, high seas is not India. Up till continental shelf is only India. Okay. Just one moment. So any activity done in Bombay High Sea. So Bombay High Sea, Bombay High is not high seas. Okay. High seas is beyond the territorial limits. That Bombay High is within the territorial limits. So it is liable to GST. Okay. It is not in the high seas. High seas is beyond that limits of the 12 plus 12 nautical miles. So Bombay High will not be, just a minute. I will show you where it is. So Bombay High will be somewhere here, not here. Okay. Since here it is there, which is up till this exclusive economic zone. That's why it is taxable. So in case of place of supply is different, but the billing address is the same state. What we have to do? We have to see the place of supply, not the billing address. Like if a customer, say this typically happens when you provide any kind of immobile property related services. Some property, say I have a property in Karnataka and the place of supply will be Karnataka itself because wherever the immobile property is located, that will be the place of supply. Now, a customer from outside the state is coming in and he is saying, I will give you this. I have another office in Karnataka. You raise an invoice in the name of Karnataka. That will not be correct because he is coming from outside India, right? Or he's coming outside the state. So you cannot bill to the same state. You have to bill it to the state from where he is coming itself. Okay. So it will always be the place of supply will be based on where the place of supply rules are defined, not on the billing address. So billing address will not be the criteria. We have to take the place of supply or Divya place of supply. You have to take as per the definition. Definition, we have rules saying that what kind of services, what will be the place of supply. That we have to consider and not always the customer's registered address. Okay. State GST law extends to the whole of that state. Integrated GST and central GST extends to the whole of India. And UT GST extends to the all the union territories. Now, on the levy provisions, Section 9 says which is the main section, it says that how we read section 7, similar to that, we have to read section 9. Subject to the provisions of subsection 2, there shall be levied a tax which is called as central goods and service tax on all intrastate supply of goods or services or both, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption on the value which is determined under section 15 and at such rates not exceeding 20% as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council and collected in such manner as may be prescribed and shall be paid by a taxable person. So important aspects. Section 9 is the levy section. तो चार्जिंग सेक्शन या लेवी सेक्शन कौन सा है जीएसटी में? सेक्शन 9. Section 9 says there shall be levied a tax. So this section is saying that we will levy a tax. Okay. So section 9 is the levy section. It is very crisp and clear. It is saying that there shall be levied a tax called the central goods and service tax on what? On all intrastate supply of goods and services. That's why we are saying that this is the section 9 of the CGST Act. Same section is there in the SGST Act also. Section 9 says there shall be levied a tax called the central goods and service tax on all intrastate supplies of goods or services on all goods except alcoholic liquor for human consumption on the value which is determined under section 9 at such rates as may be prescribed. Clear? So 9 is giving all the ingredients that there shall be levied a tax on what? There shall be levied a tax on intrastate supplies, because we said supply is very important. So they have said on any intrastate supplies, GST will be levied except on alcoholic liquor for human consumption on value which is determined under section 15 and at such rates. So value is also given, what it also is given, all the components are given. Now my question here for you is, first is, it says that the rate shall not exceed 20%. It says not exceeding 20%. My drawings are so bad, no? Yeah, not exceeding 20%. Now we know that on cars, on tobacco products, the rate is 28%. But here it says it shall not exceed 20%. So how is it possible that few people are levying GST rate at 28%? Good. Classification of goods. What is it, Dhanush? But sir, Tej is saying, sir, because 28% GST levy on luxurious goods. Correct. I agree with you, Tej, that on luxurious goods it is 28%. But do you think can any rate percentage go beyond what is there in the section? The section itself says the rate shall be at such rates which shall not exceed 20%. Here only CGST maximum limit, correct. So lot of students have analyzed and they are giving correct answer. 14% is CGST on car, correct. So how we have CGST Act, similarly we have SGST Act. So the maximum rate under CGST should not be 20%, which means 20 of this and 20 of state. So 20 plus 20, 40% it cannot exceed. And that 28%, the bifurcation, right? It is 14% CGST and 14% SGST. So that's why it is making as 28%. Okay, so whenever we read any rates here, we have to read it double of it, because whenever CGST is there, there SGST also will be there, because the constitution law itself has said that both the taxes will be levied simultaneously. So the maximum what rate they can levy is 20 plus 20, 40%. Luckily, the government has capped it as maximum 28%. But they have power to go up to 40% also. Cess is separate. Without cess, this we are talking. Correct, Kiran? With the CGST not exceeding 20%. All right. What about IGST? IGST, when we read IGST, section 7 of the IGST, there it will say not exceeding 40% because IGST will always be C plus S. So there they will mention not exceeding 40%. Right? So this is sections 9, which is saying the what should be the levy on what and what all transactions. Then the central tax on the supply of petroleum crude. There are five products they are saying: petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, which is commonly known as petrol, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel shall be levied with effect from such date as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council. Which means what? On these five products: petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. Basically, petroleum, diesel, those products, it will be levied to GST from a future date. Okay. So GST is not applicable on these five petroleum products. Okay. So does it mean that on these five petroleum products, there is no tax which is levied at all? Because here we are saying no, specifically 9 to saying that on these five products shall be levied from a date as may be notified. अब तक तो कुछ भी notify नहीं किया गया है, तो क्या इन पांच चीजों के ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगता है? Kiran Mishra is saying yes. Rajita is saying no. Rajiv has given the correct answer. No tax till now. तो आप जो पेट्रोल लेते हो फ्री है, टैक्स फ्री है क्या? टैक्स लगता है बट जीएसटी नहीं. करेक्ट. स्लोली आई एम गेटिंग आंसर्स. कि सेंट्रल एक्साइज ड्यूटी, okay, central excise duty and state VAT is applicable on these. So on these five petroleum products GST is not applicable. इसका मतलब नहीं है कि इनके ऊपर लगान नहीं है या टैक्स नहीं है. टैक्स तो लग रहा है, लेकिन ज्यादा लग रहा है. जीएसटी में लगेगा तो फिर से 14 और 14 लगेगा. इसलिए they have said that on these five petroleum products GST will not apply, but central excise and VAT still applies on this. ठीक है. And alcoholic liquor is also marked. So on alcoholic liquor also no tax. सौम्या CST और VAT लगेगा in case of thing, but when you do any import, because these petroleum are imported, उसके ऊपर central government will levy central excise duty. अच्छा, लिकर के ऊपर वैट लग रहा है? नो. Prem Kumar, Gayatri have given the correct answer. Others are लिकर कॉम्पनसेशन सेस. ऐसा तो कोई कॉम्पनसेशन सेस नहीं है भैया. सौम्या इज ऑल्सो गिवन करेक्ट आंसर. तो लिकर पर स्टेट वैट नहीं. यश पोडार करेक्ट. So on this alcoholic for human consumption, central government is not collecting anything. State government is collecting a tax which is state excise duty. Okay. स्टेट है तो हमेशा वैट है ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. स्टेट इज कलेक्टिंग स्टेट एक्साइज ड्यूटी. ओके. Only on liquor, state excise duty is levied. On others, VAT is levied. So you have to understand. be clear in your mind that on alcoholic for human consumption, state excise duty, and petroleum products, central excise duty and VAT or CST is applicable. Okay. So we understood 9.1, 9.2. Now we'll understand 9.3. 9.3 says that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification, specify the categories of supply of goods or services are both the tax on which shall be paid by reverse charge basis by the recipient of such goods or services are both, and all the provisions of this act shall apply to the recipient as if he is the person liable to pay tax. So 9.1 says on any supply, you have to pay the tax. Who will pay the tax? Supplier will pay the tax. 9.3c says that on these specific transactions which I will notify, on this the recipient will pay tax. So this is called as reverse charge mechanism. So when we refer to any reverse charge mechanism, we are directly referring to section 9 subsection 3, wherein the supplier, instead of supplier paying it, the receiver will pay it. Okay. Now, when we please note down the notification because it's very important. When we say reverse charge notification, the reverse charge, you have two notifications. One is reverse charge notification for goods, and second is reverse charge notification for services. The reverse charge notification for goods is notification number 4/2017. Okay. For RCM for goods is notification number 4/2017 central tax rate. Okay. And the RCM notification for services, RCM for services is notification number 13 of 2017 central tax rate. Okay. Now, what does this mean? कि जो भी इसमें है, this is of course not there for your syllabus for goods, but for services you have it. Services के ऊपर आपको है, लेकिन goods के लिए आपके लिए नहीं. ठीक है. What does this notification indicate? That whatever items are mentioned or whatever lines or whatever categories are mentioned in this notification, on that services, supplier will not pay, the receiver will pay the GST on them. Now, that is called as notification. Why under central tax? Because it is issued under the Central GST Act. That's why it's called central tax. And rate, because you have rate notifications which affect the GST rate. They are called as rate notifications. And other are called as non-rate notification, which means they do not affect the GST rate. Okay. Note down these notifications number. Notification number 13, we will read it very frequently. बार बार हम नोटिफिकेशन 13 को रेफर करेंगे. ठीक है. नोटेड इट डाउन. Then 9.3 is reverse charge. 9.4 is also reverse charge, but it's a different type of reverse charge. It says that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, again by notification, specify a class of registered person. Okay. Now this will specify a class of registered person who shall, in respect of supply of specified category of goods or services, or both, received from an unregistered supplier, pay the tax on reverse charge basis as the recipient of such supply of goods or services, and all the provisions of this act shall apply on such recipient as if he is the person liable to pay. Now, if you break this definition and understand this, that reverse charge 9.3, we have said that जो भी उस notification में आएगा, that receiver will pay. But here it says that they will specify a class of registered person. Okay, not all categories will come, only a specified class of registered person who, in respect of supply of specified categories of goods or services, when they are receiving from an unregistered supplier, then the receiver will pay. Okay, so specified class will be defined. In that specified class, if they are buying from an unregistered supplier, then they will pay under reverse charge mechanism. So 9.3 is different. 9.3 is whether the supplier is registered or unregistered doesn't matter. If you're receiving from those category of services, you have to pay under reverse charge. That is 9.3. And 9.4 says that if you are a specified category of person or a specified a class of registered person, and if you are buying specified categories of goods from a unregistered person, then you have to pay reverse charge. Sir, when supplier unregistered, then RCM, but when both unregistered. No, in case of 9.3 Tej, if the supplier is unregistered, okay, still you will not pay. Only if that service is given in that notification, then you will pay. And when both are unregistered, then reverse charge also will not come. It will not be taxable. And then you have 9.5. 9.5 says that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification, specify the categories of services, the tax on intrastate supplies of which shall be paid by the electronic commerce operator. So if you're a electronic commerce operator, then and if such services are supplied through it, and all the provisions of act will apply to such person. So जब भी आप ई कॉमर्स से कुछ परचेज करते हो, अगर इट इज अ स्पेसिफाइड कैटेगरी विच इज नोटिफाइड अगेन बाय नोटिफिकेशन, अगर दिया गया है 9.5 विल सी द नोटिफिकेशन, इफ यू आर सप्लाइंग एनीथिंग थ्रू अ ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर, देन दिस ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर विल पे द जीएसटी. जैसे ओला, उबर, okay, urban clap, all of these are covered under this notification. So anything which you are supplying, so the cab driver who is supplying, on that GST is paid by the Ola company. Okay. Sir, is RCM applicable to specific class of goods? Yes, only on specific class of goods or services on that RCM will apply. And 9.4 specifies the category of goods or class of persons. The 9.4 specifies the class of persons and also the category of goods, because all the category of persons, everything they have to pay. No, only on they doesn't specify. They just specify the class of persons. That class of persons, if you're buying from an unregistered person, then you have to pay reverse charge. Please explain electronic commerce operator. So when we have a lot of electronic commerce operators like Amazon, Flipkart, they are there. But not all electronic commerce operators will come under 9.5. 9.5 says that only if specified e-commerce operators, which will be notified under 9.5, on that services only, e-commerce company will pay the GST. Now, typical example is a cab aggregator. Ola, Uber is a cab aggregator. The cab people, they will generally not pay the GST, but they are linked through this e-commerce operator. So e-commerce operator will have all the transactions because he is having a full network. So he will pay the GST is what the 9(5) is saying. So in case of 9(5) transactions, the e-commerce operators will pay for such transactions. Porter Porter will see. I don't think so. Porter will commit. We'll go to the notification. It says that any transportation of passengers, but Porter doesn't do the transportation of passengers, so it may not be there. Under 9(5), both, because whatever reverse charge or whatever notification is applicable, that same notification is given under IGST also, Soumya. So even on intrastate and interstate, both e-commerce operator will pay the GST. So for those unspecified e-commerce operator, who will be liable? The supplier itself. Like on Amazon, when you sell, Amazon is an e-commerce operator. They will not pay GST. The supplier itself will pay the GST, but there also there is a control that this e-commerce operator will collect the money from the customer. They will deduct something called as a TCS and then remit it to the supplier, because the e-commerce operator collects cash. When you make the payment, you are making payment to Amazon. When you're buying a shirt, e-commerce operator, this Amazon will keep the cash. Now this doesn't belong to him. They will only take commission, and balance they will have to remit it to the supplier. So when they remit it to the supplier, the value of the supply on that, they will collect a TCS, so that that control is still there. Alcoholic liquor means जो दारू पीते हैं ना, उसे कहते हैं alcoholic liquor. So you mean Amazon is supposed to collect TCS from its suppliers, vendors? Yes, it has to. It Whenever it remits, it will deduct and then pay it to the supplier. So if alcoholic is used to make medicine, so that is industrial alcoholic. So that's why they have specifically used alcoholic liquor for human consumption, right? Direct consumption. So alcohol, industrial alcohol, which they use, that will be under GST. Non with other alcohol, which is not for industrial use, that will be under outside the GST itself. What is the flow of ITC? The flow of ITC in 9(5) is simple. 9(5) is the transaction when they are paying it, right? But on that transaction, there is also a clarification that ITC can be claimed on whatever services they are procuring. But they cannot claim any ITC on this because they are paying this taxes. They can claim ITC. That is not the case. They can claim ITC on their functions. Okay. So that was section 9. Now, in section 9, we have said that at the rate as may be specified, the government has specified these rates: 0%, 0.25%, 1.5%, 2.5%, 6%, 9%, 14%, which means the effective rate will be double of it. 0 ka double will be 0 itself. 0.125 will be 0.25%, 3%, 5%, 12%, 18%, and 24%. Okay. And on IGST, it will be the double rate itself because there is no more addition to it. IGST is one rate, so it will be C plus S itself. CGST and IGST is not levied on the following items, would be levied at a later date. That is those 5 petroleum products. Okay, that is the rates of GST. Now, how do we understand the forward charge and reverse charge? Very simple. When there is a supplier in the normal course of business, he is a supplier of goods. He is supplying. Okay. When this supplier supplies to the buyer, right? In the invoice document, he will mention value and the tax. So he is collecting the tax, he is collecting this GST, and he is collecting the price of the goods. Seller is selling to a buyer. Buyer will pay the price and the GST. So GST ultimately is whose responsibility? The burden is on receiver, but the that he is to bear it, but remitting to the government responsibilities of the supplier. So this person will remit GST to the government. Clear? Supplier will remit it to the government. This is normal process. But this is 9.1. 9.1 is saying that on specified categories, supplier will pay the GST. Now, when under reverse charge, what happens? Under reverse charge, the supplier is supplying the goods, receiver is paying the price. Supplier should not charge GST, and the receiver will pay the GST to the government. Okay. Supplier is supplying, he will not include GST in his invoice. The buyer will pay the value of the goods, and the buyer itself will pay the GST to the government. In normal cases, which is also called as forward charge, the supplier pays the tax, and in case of reverse charge, the receiver pays the tax. इसे कहते हैं reverse charge. Clear? Because if you understand this, then we can go to that relevant notification which is there for us to understand on what all category, what all services reverse charge has to be paid. What if a buyer fails to pay GST to the government? Then he is liable. The penal provisions will be on the buyer. Under reverse charge, you're asking, right, Bhumika? Yeah. Under reverse charge, if the receiver doesn't pay, the liabilities on him, he will get penalized then. Once again, RCM process. RCM process is very simple, Somya. Instead of supplier paying the tax to the government, the receiver pays the tax to the government. That is called as reverse charge mechanism. The e-commerce operator cannot claim ITC for GST paid, right? Yes, he cannot claim it because he is paying on behalf of the supplier. Example of reverse charge, lawyer services. जब भी आप legal service लेते हो, lawyer, if he's registered or unregistered, lawyer which cannot pay the tax, he cannot collect taxes in his invoice. You are a person who are registered under GST. You have to pay GST. So that's one of the example of reverse charge. So reverse charge of services, विष्णु हमको पूरा notification पढ़ना है, उसमें हमको clarity मिल जाएगा. RCM is applicable only if the receiver is registered, not necessary. The notification says in some category that if you're a business entity, still you have to register and pay it. So reverse charge, we have understood there could be two types of reverse charge. One is 9.3 and 9.4. 9.3 is on supply of specified category of goods or services. Why I am referring to 9.3 and why 5.3? 9.3 of the CGST and SGST Act and corresponding 5.3 of the IGST Act. So supply of specified category of goods or services, 9.3. But in case of supply of specified category of goods or services made by an unregistered supplier to a specified class of registered recipient, then it is 9. Sir, Rishi's question is हम Amazon कैसे चार्ज करेगा TCS since it's a buyer and TCS seller चार्ज करता है. So TDS seller चार्ज करता है, right? टीसीएस क्या होता है? जिसके पास पैसा रहता है वो टीसीएस कलेक्ट करता है, क्योंकि पैसे कस्टमर किसको दे रहा है? अमेजोन को दे रहा है। तो अमेजोन जब अपने सप्लायर को रेमिट करता है तब वो टीसीएस काट के गवर्नमेंट को जमा करेगा। ओके। अनदर क्वेश्चन इज सुभाषिनी ग्रोवर, आर यू देयर? जीएसटी का टॉपिक, रेट्स ऑफ जीएसटी। व्हाट इज द क्वेश्चन ऑन रेट्स ऑफ जीएसटी? कौन सा वाला पॉइंट आपको समझ में नहीं आया? मैं सिर्फ ये एक्सप्लेन कर रहा था दैट जीएसटी में 7 तरह के रेट है, और ये रेट डबल हो जाएंगे क्योंकि ये रेट सीजीएसटी में है, इसका एसजीएसटी भी रहेगा। तो सीजीएसटी और एसजीएसटी दोनों को ऐड करेगा तो फाइनल टैक्स रहेगा, और जो फाइनल रहेगा, जैसे मैंने कहा है कि 2.5%, 2.5% सीजीएसटी में रहेगा, 2.5% एसजीएसटी में रहेगा। लेकिन उसी गुड्स का आईजीएसटी रेट क्या हो जाएगा? सीधा 5% दिखेगा, क्योंकि वहां पे तो एक रेट है, दो रेट नहीं लगते हैं। और ऑन इंटर स्टेट सप्लाईज आईजीएसटी इज लेविएबल, which is again on value under section 15। और अल्कोहलिक लिकर फॉर ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगता है, और 5 चीजों के ऊपर, ठीक है, 5 चीजों के ऊपर जीएसटी अभी नहीं लग रहा है। तो अल्कोहलिक लिकर फॉर ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन जीएसटी के बाहर है। ऑलवेज सीजीएसटी एसजीएसटी, यस यस। to maintain that parity, CGST will be equal to SGST always। ठीक है। सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स विच आर टैक्सेबल अंडर रिवर्स चार्ज, हम देखेंगे कि बहुत सारे गुड्स हैं जो रिवर्स चार्ज पे है, जैसे कैश्यू नट्स, काजू, बीड़ी रैपर लीव्स, जो तंबाकू लेते हैं उनके पत्ते जो खरीदते हैं वो भी रिवर्स चार्ज पे है। टोबैको लीव्स, रॉ कॉटन, लॉटरी बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और लोकल अथॉरिटी, सिल्क यार्न, यूज्ड व्हीकल्स, इन सब के ऊपर रिवर्स चार्ज लगता है। लेकिन आपको कुछ भी याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि ये फर्स्ट कैटेगरी सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स टैक्सेबल एंड रिवर्स चार्ज आपके सिलेबस में नहीं है। तो यहाँ पे क्यों लिखा है सर? बस आपके अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए, ठीक है, लेकिन आपको वो पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विसेज अंडर रिवर्स चार्ज, ये पढ़ने की बिल्कुल जरूरत है, क्योंकि ये आपके लिए सिलेबस में कवर्ड है। तो सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विसेज टैक्सेबल एंड रिवर्स चार्ज कैसे हैं? विच इज नोटिफाइड अंडर नोटिफिकेशन नंबर 13। ठीक है, रिवर्स चार्ज का नोटिफिकेशन हमने लिखवाया था, नोटिफिकेशन नंबर है नोटिफिकेशन नंबर 13 ऑफ 2017, राइट, विच इज डेटेड 28 जून 2014। रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म जो रिसीवर पे करेगा उसे कहते हैं रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म। टीडीएस वो है जो मैं सप्लायर करता हूं, ठीक है, और रिसीवर को जो पेमेंट करना है वो काट के करेगा, उसे कहते हैं टीडीएस। सो देयर इज लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंस बिटवीन रिवर्स चार्ज एंड टीडीएस। रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म, इंस्टेड ऑफ सप्लायर पेइंग, रिसीवर इज पेइंग। लेकिन टीडीएस, सप्लायर सप्लाई कर दिया है, उसको पैसे आना है, द रिसीवर इंस्टेड ऑफ पेइंग मनी टू मी, दैट मनी इज पेड टू द गवर्नमेंट ऑन माई अकाउंट, दैट इज टीडीएस। लेकिन आरसीएम में जो है बेटा, कि मुझे कुछ क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, ठीक है, दैट विल गो टू द गवर्नमेंट। सप्लायर को कुछ बेनिफिट नहीं मिल रहा है, टीडीएस में सप्लायर को बेनिफिट मिल रहा है। ठीक है, कैन वी गो टू दिस नोटिफिकेशन? हमने ये नोटिफिकेशन पहले भी लिखवाया था ना? करेक्ट, नोटिफिकेशन नंबर हमने 9 3 पढ़ा था, तब ये नोटिफिकेशन हमने बोला था। सो दैट नोटिफिकेशन हमको इन डिटेल में समझना होगा। आरसीएम पर टीसीएस टीडीएस अप्लाई होगा क्या? नहीं, आरसीएम पर टीडीएस टीसीएस नहीं अप्लाई होगा, आरसीएम पे रिवर्स चार्ज ही अप्लाई होगा। तो उसके ऊपर फिर से टीडीएस और टीसीएस के प्रोविजंस नहीं आएंगे। Yeah, can we go to this notification now? क्या हम notification जा सकते हैं? We'll have a break at 3:40. So we'll understand few services, then we'll take the break. Rishi, your question is that you're getting confused with the income tax TDS and reverse charge under GST. You will apply reverse charge under GST and TDS under income tax you will deduct. So there are two different things. The TDS, what we are talking now, is TDS under GST and TCS under GST. There is TDS and TCS provisions in GST as well. Okay. Now we have to go through this notification line by line and understand that on what category of services reverse charge is applicable and which is relevant and important for us. So what I generally do is I have arranged this reverse charge notification to not go with the serial number wise, what is given in the actual notification. I will go with the important serial numbers so we can understand them and then proceed further. Okay. So first is notification number 13 of 2017. This is the only notification for reverse charge for services. Okay. Now, what is the category of supply of services here? Is it has three columns. First is it has four columns: serial number, which will give you the serial number wise, then category of supply of services, then who is the supplier of service and who is the recipient of service. If the supplier of services is this and he's providing these category of services, then the recipient will pay the tax. That is what reverse charges say. Okay. Now we'll see the first one. When the services are provided by an individual advocate, including a senior advocate or a firm of advocates, by way of legal services, directly or indirectly. Okay. So the supplier should provide what services? These services. Who can provide these services? Only a lawyer can provide it. So that's why the supplier of services is an individual advocate, including a senior advocate or firm of advocates. Okay. If this supplier is providing this service, what service? Any kind of legal services. Okay. Legal services defined under this notification itself. Legal service means any service which is provided in relation to advice, consultancy, or assistance in any branch of law in any manner and includes representational services before any court, tribunal, or authority. Okay, so they're providing any legal services in any assistance in any branch of law. That is what lawyer does. So if any lawyer provides any services to whom? To a business entity which is located in a taxable territory, then the receiver has to pay the GST. They have not said that he should be a person registered under GST. They've just said a business entity. So if a business entity, a unregistered business entity also receives any legal services, then they have to pay reverse charge. How will they pay reverse charge? They will have to register themselves and pay the reverse charge. Clear है यहाँ पे? Because if we start with the first service, then next other services will be more complicated. This is the simplest of all. Will it be applicable on CA and CS? Do you think in the first category, advocate, does advocate mean CA and CS? क्या आप अपने आप को एडवोकेट बोलोगे सीए पास होने के बाद या सीएस बोलोगे? नहीं ना. तो फिर आपके लिए ये रिवर्स चार्ज एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. ये सिर्फ एडवोकेट्स के लिए होगा. ये उन लोगों के लिए है जो टैक्स पे नहीं कर सकते. मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि एडवोकेट्स टैक्स नहीं पे कर सकते. आप उनसे टैक्स मांगो, फिर आपको पता चल जाएगा. तो गवर्नमेंट हैज रियलाइज कि एडवोकेट से टैक्स लेना मुश्किल है. इट्स वे दोज कैटेगरी ऑफ पर्संस जैसे हम आगे देखेंगे कि गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट एजेंसी, लॉयर्स है, उनसे टैक्स लेना मुश्किल है. तो इसीलिए गवर्नमेंट ने हाथ जोड़ा कि आप टैक्स मत पे कीजिए, आप जिसको सप्लाई करेंगे वो टैक्स पे कर लेंगे. So what if instead of business entity, it is an individual? Individual भी business चला सकता है. If it's an individual business entity, then he will have to pay. If it's an individual non-business entity, अगर वो अपने suppose एक पर्सनल फैमिली मैटर है, उन्होंने एक लॉयर के पास गए हैं, तो देन उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगेगा. ठीक है. सो इफ इट्स एन इंडिविजुअल नॉन बिजनेस, देन जीएसटी विल नॉट अप्लाई. Business entity includes both registered and unregistered? Definitely. In some other categories, you'll see that it is saying specifically registered person. और यहाँ पे business entity क्यों दिया गया है? Because they want to cover even non-registered person. That's why business entity is specifically given. So this will mean that it is both, it will include both a registered and unregistered person. So sir, it's like to gain deduction for legal services income tax return, business entity needs to give GST returns. ऐसा नहीं है. इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न इनकम टैक्स संभालेगा, जीएसटी रिटर्न्स जीएसटी संभालेगा. ठीक है. आपको इसमें और जीएसटी में कोई कनेक्शन नहीं करना है. So you have to claim any deduction under income tax. You have to make payment and show the bill. GST, आपको business needs to give GST return, ऐसा नहीं. Luckily, there is no such linkage. Okay. Second is similar to lawyer services. Second, it's saying that serial number 3, services supplied by an arbitral tribunal. जब भी arbitral tribunal कुछ supply करता है, तो again a arbitration party. आर्बिट्रेशन कौन करेगा? दो बिजनेस जब लड़ रहे हैं, आर्बिट्रेटर के पास जाएंगे. कि हम कोर्ट के पास नहीं जाएंगे, कोर्ट का चक्कर लंबा हो जाएगा, तो हम एक आर्बिट्रल ट्राइब्यूनल को बिठाएंगे. तो जब वो आर्बिट्रल ट्राइब्यूनल कुछ डिसाइड करेगा और वो चार्जेस लेगा, उसके ऊपर रिवर्स चार्ज पे करना पड़ेगा, नॉट टू द आर्बिट्रल ट्राइब्यूनल. जो बिजनेस एंटिटी जो दो लड़ रहे थे, उनको रिवर्स चार्ज पे करना पड़ेगा. Yes, Rajita Mariada, आपने both, you have asked very basic question. We are in the chapter of GST and we are not under the chapter of income tax. Please understand the difference. We are discussing GST, we are not discussing income tax. Were you thinking that till now we are discussing income tax? Anybody else who's having such fundamental doubts that whether GST is different from income tax, please? What is an arbitral tribunal? Arbitral tribunal means a tribunal or a body which is a mediator kind of a thing between two conflicting parties. When two parties are judging each other, or when two parties are fighting, they can go to the court, right? When they go to court, the procedure is lengthier, so they can go to an arbitral tribunal, which is not equivalent to a court, but we will hear both the sides. Now, when they hear both the sides, they will give a practical solution. So that is called as a arbitral tribunal. If business entity is unregistered, then whether he falls under RCM, no, then he is not falling under RCM. Sir, I have a doubt not regarding this class. I am new to webinars and I'm watching YouTube recorded classes to cope up. Can you get link to join a WhatsApp group? There's no such WhatsApp group. Like two partners of a firm, yes, two partners also a firm is also possible. Okay. So this is what we have started with reverse charge. We'll take a break here for 10 minutes and we'll come back and go through the other provisions also. So we were discussing on the RCM notifications. On first advocate services, we are clear. Whenever advocate or a senior advocate provides any services to a business entity, then the business entity will have to pay reverse charge. Then similarly, arbitral tribunal providing services to inner business entity, then the business entity will pay reverse charge. Next is services provided by way of sponsorship to any body corporate. Okay. So what is the difference between TDS and TCS under income tax and TDS and TCS under GST? The basic provision itself is different page. In income tax, you pay TDS on professional fees, rental, salary, and other things. In GST, you don't pay TDS on such transactions. You pay TDS on that transactions where it is specified. Like under GST, TDS is deductible when there is any supply made to the government. Then the government will have to deduct the TDS. Okay. So that is the TDS under GST law. Secondly, TCS is applicable under income tax for any kind of purchase which is specified. Like when your buyer of scrap has to make payment, then he will pay extra TCS. But in GST, e-commerce operator, while they make payment, they will have to pay the TCS. So the tangent itself is different. The provisions of income tax are very different than the GST, TDS, and TCS. If courts are existing effectively, then there was no need for tribunal. But the courts are not very effective. It takes a lot of time. That's why arbitral tribunal are set. So in case advocate given services to an individual, in that case, who is eligible to pay GST? So if he gives any services to an individual, then we'll see under exemptions, Janvi, that it is exempted. So when a advocate provides services, right, to an individual who is not registered, then it will be exempted. Next, services provided by way of sponsorship to any body, corporate, or partnership firm. This is when any person provides services to a body corporate. Now here, this is very critical. Now you tell me Tata IPL. Tata IPL is sponsoring the IPL, right? So it is making the payment, and we know under this category, right? Under this category number 4, any person is any person, and the recipient should be a body, corporate, or partnership firm. Then the recipient will pay the GST. So in this Tata IPL, whom do you think will pay the GST under RCM? BCCI. Okay. Any more answers? Because BCCI is receiving the money. So Prem Kumar is saying BCCI. What do others think? 20 सेकेंड से आईपीएल शुरू हो रहा है. Rajiv Ray is also saying BCCI. Bhumika is thinking it is Tata. Any one of them? Oh my God. Any one nahi rahega. RCM or forward charges has to be one of them. Cannot be anyone. If it would have been anyone, they would have given option as anyone. Here in the recipient category, they've said any body, corporate, or partnership located in a taxable territory. They've said only one person. BCCI. Okay. You are saying Tata, if you are saying BCCI. Come on, others. You have to give your answer. It is right or wrong, that doesn't matter. You can make mistakes here, not at the examination center. Tata, okay. BCCI, okay. A lot of people are towards BCCI, a lot of people are towards ICE. Tata, okay. So that brings us to a very important aspect. Who is the service provider and who is the service receiver? Now, people who have said Tata are people who have said BCCI, right? Who do you think is the service provider and who is the service recipient? Because what is the heading for this column? It is recipient of service. The person who is receiving, he should be the body corporate. Receiver of what? Very important. What is recipient? Recipient of service, not recipient of money. So people who have given answers saying that BCCI is the recipient, BCCI is not the recipient. Recipient of service is different. Recipient of money is different. Okay. Now Tata is giving the sponsorship money, right? He is a payer. When will somebody pay money? When they are receiving some services. Now, what is Tata receiving in this? Tata is receiving marketing service. Tata is receiving advertisement service, right? The provider is BCCI because they are providing them so much of platform. They're providing so much of advertisement. So provider is the person who is provider of service and in return he is getting consideration. Your consideration is flowing from whom? We know that the structure ऐसा है कि Tata is paying consideration to BCCI. So Tata is the payer of consideration and BCCI is the receiver of the consideration. The receiver is one who receives it and who pays, who is providing the service. The person, if you are not able to visualize it, the person who receives consideration is always the provider. So BCCI is the provider and Tata is the receiver. Correct? So GST will be paid by the recipient. And who is the recipient in our case? In our case, recipient of the service. Okay. Now tell me who is the recipient of the service. Recipient is Tata. Correct? Because they are receiver of services. That's why they are paying consideration. Consideration कौन देगा? If you are receiver, only then you'll pay. You cannot be the payer also and provider also. So always the person who pays is the receiver. Okay. The person who's paying, Tata is paying, so they are recipient of services. They will pay GST under reverse charge. So Tata is the sponsorer and sports body is the any person. They are the supplier and receiver is Tata. So RCM will be paid by Tata. ठीक है? Is this right if I say that recipient is a person who pays the money? Recipient of services, correct. Recipient of services is the person who pays the money, correct. Sponsorship service can be provided by anyone or by only the body corporate. Body services can be provided by anyone. It's not necessary, but if the recipient is this body corporate, then the body corporate or the partnership firm will pay the reverse charge. Okay. Now, I think there is an amendment in this. Let me see if it is relevant for your exam. Okay. There is a amendment here which is inserted on 16 January. So which means it will be relevant for your exam also. So this was the provision which was there before the amendment happened, right? Now we are seeing a amendment in this, which is services provided by way of any sponsorship to any body corporate or partnership. And there is an amendment in the service provider. It says any person, okay, other than a body corporate. So this is a very important amendment. Just few words added. But if the person, the provider is other than a body corporate, then the receiver will pay it. And if the provider is a body corporate, then he himself will pay it. What does it mean? That in our case, if BCCI is a service provider, uh, a person other than a body corporate, which means if the BCCI in our example is a body corporate, then Tata will not pay GST under RCM. BCCI themselves will pay. Okay. Which means that if any company is doing any event and they are collecting sponsorship, then that company itself will pay GST under normal route, that is under forward charge. If that person who is getting the sponsorship is not a body corporate, like it's an individual, it's a proprietorship or a partnership or a LLP also, because body corporate means only body corporate. Other than body corporate, if it's anybody, then that person will pay, not pay the GST. The receiver will pay the GST if the receiver is a body corporate. Clear? This amendment is very relevant and important for you. So if a body corporate is organizing the event and collecting sponsorship, they themselves will pay the GST under forward charge. Clear here? Yeah. A lot of questions. So sponsorship service can be provided by anyone to anyone. Yes. So in the case BCCI is providing service and Tata is giving money, how it comes under RCM? Because BCCI is a service provider. Receiver is Tata. Tata is a body corporate. So Tata is, and BCCI is not a corporate, right? So Tata will pay under reverse charge mechanism. What if the receiver is a non-body corporate nor a firm? Then the supplier themselves will pay the GST. What if he is a non-business individual? So supplier himself will pay the GST Anubhav. What if the recipient of service is not a body corporate? Yeah, got this. So, sir, if a college collects sponsors, then the college will pay GST under RCM. No, but college is not a body corporate, right? If the colleges generally will not be a body corporate, they'll be registered as a trust. So, the persons that if I am giving the sponsorship, I am a private limited company, then I will pay reverse charge. If I am not a body corporate, right? I'm giving the sponsorship. So, supplier who is other than a body corporate, right? Then I will pay GST. If I am also not registered, then the supplier will pay the GST on it. Paytm is a body corporate. Yes, Paytm is a body corporate. Now, only individual will be liable to RCM. No, body corporate and partnership only will be liable. Aman, supplier should be other than a body corporate. If the, see, don't get confused here. Supplier is different, recipient is different. Supplier should be other than a body corporate. If the receiver is non-body corporate, he will not be under RCM because RCM still under the recipient category, there is no amendment. Recipient category is still same. It says any body corporate or partnership firm. So such body corporate or partnership firm who is located in a taxable territory, they will still be payable for RCM. Subject to the condition the service provider should not be a body corporate. Got it? Then next category will move on. Hope this is clear now. The amendment part, pre-amendment part we understood. Now post-amendment, why I bought it separately now is so that we can distinguish what was it before the amendment, one what is it after the amendment. Okay. Then services supplied by the central government, state government, union territory, or local authority to a business entity, excluding renting of immobile property and services specified below, which is services by Department of Posts, services by and railways, services in relation to aircraft and transportation of goods or passengers. So any services of the central government or state government, and the central government, other than these services, when they are providing rental, it will not be covered here. It will be covered under the next line, which is 5A. Okay. So renting is not liable to GST or not liable to RCM. We cannot say because when we read 5A, then we can conclude it. So service supplied by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority to a business entity will be liable or no, will be liable other than renting, other than railways and postages. Because postages pay, it will be that postal company itself, that is the postal department. They themselves will pay GST, so that's why it is not under RCM. Railways also, they will pay forward charge, it will not be under RCM. And any aircraft and vessel services, that will also be under forward charge. And transportation of goods or passengers, that will also not be liable to GST. So when the central government provides services to any business entity, then the business entity will have to pay reverse charge. Then if you read 5A along, then we'll have a better clarity. When the service supplied by the central government, state government, or local authority by way of renting of immobile property. So government buildings are there, government shops are there, government departments are there where they will have their department and then they will have some floors which will be giving for commercial purposes. So such things, right? When supplier will be central government, state government, or any local authority, and recipient will be who? The recipient will be any person who is registered under GST. So here, if you see, there is a distinction. Earlier they used business entity. Here they are using only any business registered under the GST. So if the recipient is registered under GST, then he will pay GST on that rental. जैसे एक commercial complex है, we see that bus stops are built and buses are plied and there are some shops. So who is the provider of service? The government is providing the rental services. And this shop owner, if this person is registered, then he will pay under reverse charge. If he is not registered, then the government themselves will have to pay the GST. Or if you see, there will be some exemption saying that government providing service to a person who is not registered, then that is also exempted. Clear with this? So government से जो भी आप लेते हो, government will not charge GST, but the recipient, if they are business entities, they will pay GST under RCM. Person includes body corporate? Yes, person includes firm, individual, person, proprietorship, partnership, association of persons, and body corporate also. What if a body corporate provides to another body corporate? Then, Bhumika, very good question. It says other than body corporate, so they will pay under forward charge itself. What is the meaning of forward charge? So normal, जो सप्लायर पे करता है उसे कहते हैं फॉरवर्ड चार्ज. जो रिवर्स चार्ज के अलावा, जैसे आप दुकान जाते हो, आप कुछ खरीदते हो, करेक्ट, तो आप जे टैक्स गवर्नमेंट को पे करते हो या सप्लायर? सप्लायर, राइट. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज फॉरवर्ड चार्ज. जो सप्लाई करता है और वही टैक्स पे करता है उसे कहते हैं फॉरवर्ड चार्ज. Why a business which is not registered won't pay GST? Because government services they're providing to persons who are not registered. अगर they are not registered, मतलब उनका business ही थोड़ा है. So there should not be any burden. That's why there is an exemption to them. Only on rental services, Sharon, not on other services, I'm saying. Here, 5 and 5A. Now, 5AA and 5AB. This is very important because this is also an amended provision. Services by way of renting of residential dwelling. हमने पहले कहीं तो डिस्कस किया है कि जब आप रेंटिंग प्रोवाइड करते हो, सप्लाई ऑफ रेसिडेंशियल, जैसे आप घर का भाड़ा देते हो तो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी पे करते हो क्या? दैट इज ऑल्सो सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस. एंड से द लैंडलॉर्ड इज रजिस्टर्ड. मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस लैंडलॉर्ड रजिस्टर्ड नहीं रहते. से फॉर सम रीजन दे आर रजिस्टर्ड, तो क्या वो रेंट के ऊपर जीएसटी कलेक्ट करेंगे? Supplier is not. Charan, my assumption is that supplier is registered. Then will on the rental they will pay collect GST. This rent is also a supply. Okay. रेंटिंग इज ऑल्सो सप्लाई. लेकिन अगर रेंट के ऊपर जीएसटी कलेक्ट करना शुरू कर देंगे तो फिर खाने के ऊपर भी रजिस्टर करो जीएसटी. रोटी कपड़ा मकान, ये तीन बेसिक नेसेसिटीज होती है. जिनके पास रहने के लिए जगह नहीं है और आप रेंटल के ऊपर जीएसटी कलेक्ट करोगे, then all the government, all the public citizens of India will be against the government, right? तो रेंट के ऊपर जीएसटी कलेक्ट नहीं करते हैं. देयर इज अ एग्जेम्पशन कि रेंटिंग ऑफ रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग, मतलब जब आप कुछ घर रेसिडेंशियल पर्पस के लिए, घर के लिए स्टे करने के लिए यूज करते हो, तब उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगता है. ठीक है. तो ऑन रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग जीएसटी नहीं है. घर के ऊपर, घर के भाड़े के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. ठीक है. लेकिन अगर वो ही रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग इज प्रोवाइडेड बाय एनी पर्सन टू अ रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन, जैसे किसी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन ने लिया है, तो फिर जीएसटी लगेगा, क्योंकि वो रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन है. अब रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन है जो अपने रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन के लिए यूज कर रहा है, तो फिर जीएसटी लगेगा, राइट. लेकिन वो रेसिडेंशियल रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन क्यों यूज कर रहा है? अपने घर के लिए नहीं, वो रेसिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग यूज कर रहा है अपने बिजनेस के लिए, तब लगेगा. अगर आई एम रजिस्टर्ड अंडर जीएसटी, नाउ आई एम पेइंग रेंट, सो डज इट मीन रेंट के ऊपर आई हैव टू पे जीएसटी? नो, बिकॉज दैट हाउस व्हाट आई एम यूजिंग इट इज फॉर माय पर्सनल पर्पस and not for business purpose. That house, if I use for business purpose, then I have to pay under reverse charge. How to identify the person? See, it is reverse charge. The person who is receiving the services, he knows his status, right? Soumya, supplier need not know whether the person recipient is registered or unregistered. Supplier only has to collect his rent. Now, if the supplier, जो लैंडलॉर्ड है, अगर वो रजिस्टर्ड है तो वो जीएसटी कलेक्ट करेगा, अगर वो रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है तो नहीं कलेक्ट करेगा. द लायबिलिटी इज ऑन द रिसीवर. रिसीवर को तो पता होगा कि उसने वो क्या है, वेदर वो रजिस्टर्ड है या अनरजिस्टर्ड है. So if the recipient is registered and you is using that rental premises for his business purposes, then he will pay reverse charge. If he is not using it for his business purposes, if he is using it for residential purposes, then he will not pay reverse charge. Correct? What if registered person uses the building for residential purposes? Then it will not be liable to reverse charge, because the reverse charge notification or the exemption notification, to be more precise, there it says that, I'll just read out the wordings so that you are clear with that. Services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as residence, except when the residential dwelling is rented to a registered person, then it is exempted. Then they give an explanation saying that the registered person exemption under this entry shall cover services by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person, where the registered person is a proprietor of a proprietorship concern and rents the residential dwelling in his personal capacity for his own residential use, and such renting is on his own account and not that of a proprietorship concern. Then, for the purpose of exemption, this entry shall cover such services. So clearly they have told that if a proprietor is using it for his residential dwelling, then he will still get the exemption. Phi double A and phi AB are same? No, phi double A and phi AB are different. So we are still on phi double A. Sir, so there would be no GST for residential house purpose, even for supplier receiver. Correct. There will not be there. What if registered person uses this building for residential purpose? What if registered person uses the building for residential purpose? Means what? Just explain your facts more in detail. In case shops giving rent is not a residential purpose, so GST will apply. Okay. Now 5AB also will read, then we'll be more clear. Services by way of renting of any immobile property other than residential dwelling. So हमने first देखा residential dwelling. Second, we are saying other than residential dwelling. So commercial space, जो shops है, offices है, all of that will come here. So services by way of renting of any immobile property other than residential dwelling. Supplier कौन है? Unregistered person. सब जगह, this is the only one place where you will see it is any unregistered person. Okay. So when the supplier is an unregistered person and receiver is a registered person, तो फिर receiver को RCM पे करना पड़ेगा. In this case, 5AA, it says any person, which means the supplier can be registered or unregistered. If the recipient is registered, तो फिर recipient को pay करना पड़ेगा. But in case of commercial space, it says by service by way of renting of any immobile property other than residential dwelling, then the recipient who is registered, we will have to pay. If the supplier is registered, then what will happen? Supplier himself will pay. So if anyone is using immobile property for commercial purpose, registers have to pay GST. If anyone is using immobile property for commercial purpose, registers, not clear. If both are unregistered and used for business, then what will happen? If both are unregistered, no GST, right? Because if both are unregistered, no GST, because supplier will be unregistered because his limit is below the limits. Correct? Example of 5AA. Good. A company is registered under GST. Now, company wants guest house, right? When they take any guest house from a person, he is giving it for residential dwelling. कि आप residential के लिए use करो. Whenever my guest comes, they are staying there. Who is paying the rent? This company is paying. This company is registered under GST. So, this company will pay GST under reverse charge for this residence. You have to understand this, Somya, then you will remember this. Clear? Example of 5AA. 5AA used by registered person for office work, then he has to pay reverse charge. Sir, so if registered person gave rental of business purpose, then who will pay? If registered person gave rental for business purpose, then the registered person only will pay. Anybody else who's having any doubt? Now we have to make this class interactive because otherwise it is happening that it's becoming one-way communication. Please raise your hands so that we can interact now. Yes, Priti, what is your question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
No, sir, like you gave the example of a company, right? So,
Correct.
like it took the guest house for rent for its business purpose, right? So,
Correct.
how will it come under 5AA, sir?
Because it is a service by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. So the landowner is providing what? He's providing a residential dwelling. Correct?
Yes, yes,
So he's providing a residential dwelling and the company is registered.
yes.
So it satisfies all the conditions. It satisfies this condition that he is any person and the recipient, that is the company, is a registered person. So it satisfies all the conditions. So the company has to pay reverse charge.
Okay. So the purpose for the rent is not relevant here.
Correct. What is it? The service is by way of renting of residential dwelling. The purpose for which you use is important. You are still using it for residential purpose only.
Yes, sir.
So purpose also is important. Usage also is important.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone who is an individual, whether registered or not, will be exempt under 5AA. 5AA is not an exemption, my dear. 5AA is a reverse charge case. So exemption, you will have to go to notification number 12, and in that you have to go to सीरियल नंबर 12। 12 में 12 सीरियल नंबर जाएंगे, तब एग्जेम्पशन वहां पे मिलेगा आपको। वेदर होटल कम अंडर 5A? नो, होटल अकोमोडेशन इज नॉट रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग। रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग इज वन जहां पे आप परमानेंटली स्टे करते हो, जिसको आप एड्रेस प्रूफ बता सकते हो। आप होटल में 1 महीना रुको, क्या उसको आप एड्रेस प्रूफ बता सकते हो? नहीं ना। सो होटल अकोमोडेशन विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज अ रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग। Correct. 5AA focuses on renting of residential dwelling. 5AB focus on renting of any immobile property. Correct. Which is other than residential dwelling, basically. In case of rent, Prem Kumar, if it is a commercial space and supplier is there who is registered, then it will be under FCM, which is forward charge. If the supplier is not registered, then it will be under RCM. What if registered person uses his building for residential purposes? Got this? Will GST be even charged for residential purposes if supplier is registered and recipient is other than a registered person? Then it will be forward charge. If recipient is registered, then it will be under reverse charge. PG accommodation, there is a category. We'll come to that. PG accommodation, they've said that if that accommodation is for a continuous period of 90 days, then it will be exempted. If it is a continuous period of more than 90 days, then it will be exempted. Less than 90 days, it will be taxable. Clear? Any more doubts in this? So only if registered person is using the space for business, RCM would apply. Whether he is using it for business or non-business, still RCM will apply because it says any registered person. Okay. So in case of rent, only RCM will be applicable and not forward charge. This question is clarified to Prem. If the supplier is registered, it will be under forward charge. If the supplier is not registered, then it will be under reverse charge in these two categories. If we use for residential purposes for a person who is unregistered and a recipient who is using it only for rental purposes, then exemption. But if the then I said there is an exemption. The exemption also said other than a registered person. So if the person is registered, then Dhanush, it will be under reverse charge. Clear now? No confusion. Supplier is registered. Renting of residential property, no GST. Supplier is not registered. Recipient is not registered. Residential property, no GST. Supplier is not registered. Recipient is registered. Reverse charge will up for residential property. Non-residential property, supplier is registered, he will pay it. Supplier is not registered, recipient will pay it because other than residential, GST will apply. For residential only, GST will not apply when if it is used for residential purpose. Simple. We can have multiple options, permutations and combinations. If you do, then you will get some clarity. When both are registered, when both are registered, if the supplier is registered, recipient is registered. Again, you have to see there that supplier is registered. He's providing a residential property. He will never be chargeable. Recipient will have to see whether he is using that he is registered and is using it for his office use, then he will pay RCM. And if the recipient is registered and is using for his personal use, then no GST. Good point, Mahal. Dhanush, what I'll do is for your convenience and for convenience of others, I'll make a table on various combinations. Then you will have some clarity. But as you have said rightly, please watch this video again. Then in the next class, I will give you some clarity. Okay. Now let us go to the next service. Service supplied by a director of a company or a body corporate. Now this director means a person who is a independent director, not a employee, because the employee of the company will get salary. Salary ke upar we have seen under Schedule 3, there is no GST. So services supplied by a director other than salary, and this director is providing services to a company, then the company will have to pay GST under reverse charge. What services director will provide? He'll provide some professional services. He'll provide some director sitting fees. Director who there are companies who need independent directors. As per the Companies Act, if they cross some threshold limit, they have to appoint an independent director. Now, this independent director, when he is providing some services, right? This independent director provides some services to the company. This independent director, what he has to do, he has to make independent decisions. He will not interfere into the day-to-day affairs of the company. He'll attend the board meeting, discuss, and then go off. So for every board meeting, he will charge a sitting fees. Okay, for attending this, whatever fees is paid, this is called as director sitting fees. Now, this director sitting fees is liable to reverse charge basis. Similarly, any other services what director provides, okay, it says services supplied by a director to a company, the company will pay reverse charge. Then security services. Security services are those services that जो गेट के बाहर खड़े रहते हैं, सिक्योरिटी करते हैं, गार्ड करते हैं. So these security services are provided by agencies. डायरेक्टली आप सिक्योरिटी को हायर नहीं करते हो, सिक्योरिटी एजेंसी रहती है. सो दी सिक्योरिटी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड. नाउ दिस सिक्योरिटी सर्विस एजेंसी जो है, दिस कैन बी अ बॉडी कॉर्पोरेट, प्राइवेट लिमिटेड और अ पार्टनरशिप फर्म. अगर ये सिक्योरिटी कंपनी G4 सिक्योरिटीज प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है, so G4 Securities, if it's a private limited, then they will pay under forward charge. If G4 Securities is other than a body corporate, it says other than a body corporate, and the recipient is registered, then recipient has to pay under reverse charge. Okay. Supplier is body corporate, receiver is body corporate, supplier will pay. Supplier is body corporate, recipient is unregistered, still supplier will pay. Supplier is other than a body corporate, recipient is other than a body corporate, then supplier is other than a body corporate, recipient is other than a body corporate, again the supplier will pay. Supplier is other than a body corporate and recipient is a registered person, then the receiver will pay. Clear? सिक्योरिटी सर्विसेज में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बिकॉज यहाँ पे आपको एग्जेम्पशन की कंफ्यूजन नहीं रहती है. रेंटिंग में, रेसिडेंशियल में कंफ्यूजन होगा क्योंकि वहां पे एग्जेम्पशन का कैटेगरी भी एक आता है. क्लियर हियर? Now, provided nothing contained in this entry shall apply to department government. So, security services जब government department, local authority, government agencies or a person paying tax under section 10 को सप्लाई करती है, तब तब सिक्योरिटी जीएसटी चार्ज नहीं करेगा. व्हाट इज दिस सेक्शन 12 कॉम्पोजिशन पर्सन? दिस इज अ पर्सन हु इज रजिस्टर्ड अंडर जीएसटी, लेकिन वो क्या करता है, जो अपने सप्लाई है उसके ऊपर 1% ही जीएसटी पे करता है. सो ऑन दैट कॉम्पोजिशन टैक्सेबल पर्सन, वो जब भी वो सिक्योरिटी सर्विस लेता है तब जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. ठीक है, तब जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. Registered person paid rent to Indian Railways. So Indian Railways is also Indian Railways can provide rent. Yeah, they can provide rent. Now Indian Railways is registered commercial hai, so Indian Railways will pay GST under forward charge. Clear? Because Indian Railways is not a government. It is not a central government, state government. It's a separate entity. Police service comes under GST? No, it is under sovereign functions. So section 7 में ही exclude हो जाएगा. ठीक है? Next is goods transport agency. Next three services, what we'll do is we will understand here. Then we have a separate diagram to understand them. There also we will see them in detail. But we'll just understand this, that goods transport agency. आपको गुड्स एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे ट्रांसपोर्ट करना है. आप किसको रिक्रूट करेंगे? कोरियर कंपनी को. करेक्ट. सो कोरियर कंपनी को कर देंगे तो कोरियर कंपनी पे कर देगा. लेकिन जब मेरा गुड्स ज्यादा होता है, कोरियर कंपनी का चार्जेस मुझे वर्कआउट नहीं होता है, आई विल एंगेज अ गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट एजेंसी. गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट एजेंसी विल डू व्हाट? दे विल टेक द गुड्स एंड गिव मी अ डॉक्यूमेंट कि ओनरशिप उसके पास है, ताकि रास्ते में भी कुछ गुम जाए, देन जीटीए विल टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. So these goods transport agencies, what they will do? They will take the goods and transport it to whichever location you see. So GTA will be liable to GST or no if the recipient is one of these 7 category of people, who is a factory, a society, a cooperative society, person registered under GST Act, a body corporate, a partnership firm, or a casual taxable person. अगर आप ये 7 कैटेगरी के रिसिपिएंट हो और आप अगर जीटीए की सर्विस रहते हो, तब आप रिवर्स चार्ज पे करना है. ठीक है. दूसरे सभी में हमने देखा देयर इज ओनली 1 कैटेगरी, बट फॉर जीटीए देयर आर 7 कैटेगरीज. सो व्हेन वी आर वन ऑफ दी 7 कैटेगरी ऑफ पीपल, वी हैव टू पे रिवर्स चार्ज. And GTA, if they're providing services to government, then they don't have to charge GST. Services provided by way of renting of motor vehicle, which is designed to carry passengers, where the cost of fuel is included in the consideration. जैसे आपने सेल्फ ड्राइव कार करते हो, सेल्फ ड्राइव कार में आपका जो चार्ज रहता है इंक्लूडिंग फ्यूल कॉस्ट रहता है. करेक्ट. देयर if the supplier is a person other than a body corporate and does not issue an invoice charging GST at 6%, then the recipient who is a body corporate, they have to pay. तो यहाँ पे अगर सप्लायर जो है बॉडी कॉर्पोरेट है, देन सप्लायर विल पे. अगर सप्लायर सेल्फ ड्राइव कार एक रिसिपिएंट को पे करता है, हु इज एन इंडिविजुअल, देन सप्लायर विल पे. लेकिन जो रिसीवर है वो अगर बॉडी कॉर्पोरेट है, तो रिसीवर विल पे द जीएसटी अंडर आरसी. So on GTA and on this service by way of renting of motor vehicle, we'll come to our presentation in the next class and understand that in detail. Okay, because there are various possibilities on that. These two services के अलावा बाकी सब we are covering here itself. Services supplied by any person by way of transfer of development rights. So any person who is providing floor space index or a ट्रांसफर ऑफ डेवलपमेंट राइट्स. जो डेवलपमेंट राइट्स है, एक स्पेशल तरह की राइट होती है जिनके पास कुछ जगह है और गवर्नमेंट उनको कंपलसरी एक्वायर करता है. गवर्नमेंट को रेलवे लाइन बनानी है और उसी जगह पे आपकी लैंड है, तो लैंड एक्विजिशन करके गवर्नमेंट आपको मुनाफा देगी, कॉम्पनसेशन देगी. उसके साथ क्या करेगी? ये डेवलपमेंट राइट्स देगी. आप इस डेवलपमेंट राइट्स को क्या करोगे? बेच दोगे. किसको बेचोगे? जनरली जो बिल्डिंग बनाते हैं उनको बेच दोगे, ताकि वो उसको यूज कर सके. सो आप एनी पर्सन हो और प्रोमोटर है जो डेवलपमेंट राइट्स या एफएसआई फ्लोर स्पेस इंडेक्स खरीदता है. किसके लिए खरीदता है? फॉर कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ अ प्रोजेक्ट. तो फिर ये प्रमोटर जो है वो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी पे करेगा. देन लॉन्ग टर्म लीज विच इज 30 साल के ऊपर वाला जो भी लीज है, आप किसी प्रोमोटर को देते हो तो फिर प्रोमोटर रिवर्स चार्ज पे करेगा. देन इंश्योरेंस एजेंट, रिकवरी एजेंट्स जो है, जो काम करते हैं, उनके ऊपर जीएसटी का पड़ाव जो है वो पे नहीं कर पाते हैं, इसीलिए इंश्योरेंस कंपनी या बैंकिंग कंपनी जीएसटी पे करेगी. नेक्स्ट इज सर्विस बाय वे, सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस बाय अ म्यूजिक कंपोजर, फोटोग्राफर और आर्टिस्ट. जो म्यूजिक कंपोजर, फोटोग्राफर, आर्टिस्ट है, वो किसको सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं? कंपनीज या म्यूजिक कंपनी को प्रोवाइड करते हैं। तो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी ये म्यूजिक कंपनी, प्रोड्यूसर जो है वो पे करेगी। देन सर्विस बाय वे ऑफ ऑथर, ऑथर जो बुक लिखता है वो किसको देता है? पब्लिशर को। सो जनरली पब्लिशर जीएसटी पे करेगा, लेकिन ऑथर अगर रजिस्ट्रेशन लेता है और वो डिक्लेरेशन देता है कि मैं पे करूंगा, तो फिर उसे पे करने की इजाजत दी जाती है। Then other miscellaneous services are services by way of members of a overseeing committee, जो आरबीआई को सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं, आरबीआई पे करेगा। और डायरेक्ट सेलिंग एजेंट्स हैं, और बैंकिंग कंपनी को कुछ प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तो बैंकिंग कंपनी पे करेगी। सिमिलरली बिजनेस फैसिलिटेटर्स, बिजनेस करस्पॉन्डेंट्स के ऊपर जो भी है, द बैंकिंग कंपनी या बिजनेस करस्पॉन्डेंट है, वो जीएसटी पे करेगा। सिमिलरली लेंडिंग ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज एजेंसी, जो लेंडर है और बोरोवर जो है, जो बोरोवर है वो रिवर्स चार्ज पे करेगा। ठीक है। So the facility provided by the GTA is more as compared to courier services. So naturally the price will be more for GTA. No, because GTA, when you're using a courier, they will have their own margins. So courier charges will be high, Charan, compared to a GTA, because GTA will only carry your goods, so it will reach the destination also. So GTA will be from point to point, but still it will work out cheaper because courier is providing additional services. So that's why courier are generally high. Or sometimes you cannot engage a courier services, you have to engage a GTA. In such situation, you will engage only a GTA service. Okay. So what is that overseeing committee? Overseeing committee means a committee which is set up by the Reserve Bank, which is like a second line of defense for bankers for some decisions. So if bankers have to take some decisions, whether they have to give loan or no, they will go to this overseeing committee. They will help them to decide. That is the role of this overseeing committee. RCM is not complicated, Somya. Once you go through it, then you'll definitely see that it is very simple. Okay, so please go through this. Then if there's any queries, we can take it up in the next class and discuss this. Over to you, Swati, ma'am.
Thank you, Deepak, sir, for such a wonderful session. And yes, the very important concept, reverse charge services have been taken today. Generally, students, we find in examination, whenever the question number 5, the computation of GST liability, the compulsory question in the descriptive portion, the first question, the one big question, is generally asked on the computation of GST liability, and it generally carries two to three adjustments of reverse charge, where reverse charge is applicable. Sometimes we find that there is a separate question like who is liable to pay GST in the case, and wherever many 4 5 adjustments are there, and there is an applicability of the provisions of the services where reverse charges mechanism is applicable. Yes, but please don't fear from the reverse charge mechanism, as it is not at all difficult. One important thing I would like to reiterate is that while you're going through the services on which reverse charge is applicable, it is very important to bear in mind who is the supplier of service and who is the recipient of service. So supplier and recipient of service, they are the very crucial. The determination of the supplier and the recipient of service is very crucial in determining whether reverse charge will be applicable to a particular service or not. as sometimes, it might happen that when you revise again and again, so the category of services you are able to memorize, like legal services, sponsorship services, security services. But there is a catch in each, in these services. So that's why who is the supplier and who is the recipient, that you really need to pay attention, because that is very important, because only if you correctly identify the supplier and the recipient, then only you can correctly apply the reverse charge mechanism. Let me give you one more thing, one more important thing I would like to tell you is that for September 2025 examination, the position of law till the end of Feb 2025 is applicable for you. So you have to read the study material along with the amendments made thereafter till the end of Feb 2025. So as we can tell you, like in when coming to the entry 4, like services provided by way of sponsorship to any body, corporate or partnership firm, there is a reverse charge mechanism in case of sponsorship service. Earlier, it used to be that services provided by any person to any body, corporate, or partnership firm located in taxable territory, reverse charge was applicable. But now there is an amendment that any person other than a body corporate. So if any supplier can be any person, but if it is a body corporate, if supplier is a body corporate, then RCM will not apply, right? So RCM will apply only when supplier is any person other than a body corporate and the recipient is any body corporate or partnership firm located in the taxable territory. Similarly, one amendment is there in entry 5AB of reverse charge notification. Entry 5B provides that services by way of renting of any immovable property other than residential dwelling. Earlier, it says that any unregistered person, if the service is provided to a registered person, that reverse charge was applicable, but it has been amended. Now, reverse charge will apply only if services by way of renting of any immovable property other than residential dwelling is provided by any unregistered person to any registered person, but other than a person who has opted to pay tax under composition levy. So in case the recipient is a person who has opted to pay tax under composition levy, recipient has opted for composition scheme, that RCM will not apply. Right. So yes, being a taxation paper, as we know that amendments being GST, especially a rule-based legislation, so amendments keep on coming throughout the year, and amendments are very important from examination point of view as well. So you have to read the law along with the amendments basically. And one thing I would like to request you, yes, you can give your feedback, students. Please, 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 it is very important that please provide your feedback to us. We want you to make full use of these live virtual classes, and you can make, there is always a scope of improvement in anything which we do, and we can, improve these classes only when we get the correct feedback from each of you. Right. So all the students who are there in the live session, or all the students who will watch this over, offline, like on the YouTube, or please provide your feedback. Your feedback is really important for us. It matters us. It helps us in improving our services for you. Right. So I would like to know, you can, you can share your share your whether you are getting use of these classes. Hope the concepts getting clear and all the queries are resolved, and how you find the delivery mechanism of Deepak sir. We generally get a very good feedback of sir, that yes, he teaches the concepts in a very interesting manner with lot of examples, illustrations, and lot of it is the session is generally very interactive. And any of you who has any other feedback or anything, whether it is positive or it is negative, but please give us feedback. Only then we can communicate it further, and your feedback really helps us in making these classes more to so that we can outreach these classes. So please be there. And coming to this topic, charge of GST, the reverse charge mechanism services are really very important. And in the future classes also, sir will take the, when you go through all the services which are taxable under reverse charge, then we request you to solve the quiz time questions as well. MCQ quizzes we have given therein, because and a lot of application based multiple choice questions are there, and so that when you go through these MCQ quiz time, your basically understanding gets strengthened, and you are able to understand the services in a comprehensive manner. And going forward, there are a lot of circulars also in this reverse charge. In this chapter is basically charge of GST like director services. So I will take these circulars. Then we have very very important concept, this composition levy in this chapter, charge of GST. So be there in another session. So I will take the this composition levy, and let us just have a quick recap of these services. I am going to ask you a few questions and you are going to, answer. So let us understand how well you are able to understand this. So, okay. So I want to know if services provided by way of renting of residential dwelling, right? Services are provided by a partnership firm by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. So whether RCM is applicable or not, just saying can let us know. Janvi has replied applicable. Aman has replied applicable. Divya applicable. Rishi had said not applicable. Why, Rishi? Why RCM is not applicable? May I know the reason behind it? Rishi, let me tell you that your answer is wrong, because yes, RCM is applicable if services provided by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. Reason being, uh, supplier can be any person. So supplier can be partnership firm or a body corporate. If services are provided by any person to a registered person, then RCM is applicable, right? So, right now, one more query. Uh, if security services are provided by XYZ Limited to Mr. Y registered under GST, whether RCM is applicable or not. I repeat, security services are provided by XYZ Limited to, let's say, Mr. A person registered under GST, then whether RCM is applicable or not. Bhumika has replied. We are getting mixed answers. Some are saying applicable and some are saying not applicable. Divya saying applicable. Fast, I am waiting for more answers before I conclude. Mohammed has said ki not applicable. So the correct answer is that RCM is not applicable. The reason being, services are provided by XYZ Limited, as I told you. Well, for the applicability of RCM in case of security services, supplier should be any person other than a body corporate. Whereas in my question, supply security services are provided by XYZ Limited, even though it was provided to Mr. A registered person, but supply services were provided by a body corporate, so RCM was not applicable. Mohammed, you have given the correct answer. Prem has also given the correct answer. Rajveer, correct answer. So, one more. Legal services. This is the last question. Legal services are provided by Mr. X to PQR Limited, right? So whether RCM will be applicable or not. Fast, whether RCM will be applicable or not in this case. Yes, everybody has replied. Most of the students have replied correctly. Yes, RCM is applicable because services are provided by legal services. Services provided by any individual advocate, including a senior advocate or a firm of advocate by way of legal services, whether directly or indirectly. Then if legal services are provided to a business entity, any business entity, then RCM is applicable, right? So this way, when we make this session interactive, students also engage in the sessions, and basically when when we get a lot of answer, we also feel that yes, you are participating, concepts are clear to you. So thank you. Now let's end to the session. So please, students, once again, I request you, please share your feedback to us, and please be there in these classes and make full use of it. And as you know that August for September 2025 and January 26th, this October 2024 edition is applicable for you. So October 2024 edition of study material is applicable for September exam as well as for January 2026 examination. For September and January 2026 examination, I repeat, study material is to be read along with statutory updates. Right? So thank you. Thank you for this. Bhumika has replied, yes, ma'am. Final questions make us so happy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.